Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Eric Johansson. That is Matt Dumont. We're both teachers and tutors with the LSAT Demon. We got an email from Matt. Matt
Not
asks, me. No, different Matt. No relation.
No relation.
Matt asks a good question. Should I be answering every question on a practice test, or just trying to fully understand and answer correctly every question that I get to? Is it better to stop at the 30-minute or 1 minute left point to just get an answer on the questions I didn't get to? Or do you recommend not doing that so the PT score is a worst case? Not entirely sure what Matt means by that last point. I guess just the worst case of this is what I would score if I didn't get to the rest of the questions. But yeah, Matt, maybe you can break that down and discuss how to approach a time section generally, and then what your routine should be when the clock starts to count down.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to answer the last thing first because I think it's the easiest one. You must bubble in an answer for every question that you do not get to. We'll talk about how deep you should get into the section in just a moment and like what that looks like and what that means. But if you don't do that, you're going to fuck up on test day, and then you're not going to get, because you play how you practice. Let's just say that you play how you practice. And so you must, whether you do it at the 5 minute or the 1 minute mark, sure. I mean, the 5 minute mark is going to pop up on a little pop up that's annoying anyway. So you might as well just do it then. And then go back to working on the one question you were working on. But you should bubble in an answer for every single question, because there's no penalty for getting something wrong. And you're likely to get 1 in 5. Statistically, you're going to get 1 in 5 correct. And so if you leave 6 answers blank, you are leaving value on the table, and that value could be dramatically different. And so you might get lucky. Maybe you get 2 or 3 correct out of 6. You might also get unlucky and get 0, but like the likelihood is you're going to get 1 or 2 of those right. And if you don't do that across 3 sections, you might be looking at 5, 6, 7 points worth. And that could be a huge difference. That could be like 157 to 163 land difference in your score.
Getting in versus getting a scholarship difference, right?
Yeah, like you don't get in with one of those, you get a full ride with the other potentially.
Yeah.
Like bubble in every answer.
Yeah.
What about
that's a key point. If you don't know, now you know. There's no negative points for guessing on the LSAT. So
no negative points.
Yeah, it's only upside to bubbling in guesses on the ones you don't get to.
So what about how should they approach this section, Eric? What do you think is, like, should they answer every question? Should they focus in and only answers get the ones that they get to? What do you think?
Yeah, you should not try to finish the section. So there's a difference between saying that you're at least going to bubble in an answer choice for every section versus trying to answer every question thoughtfully. And I think you mentioned the 5 minute mark as a sensible time to just, hey, if you're through 17 questions and the 5 minute mark pops up, then use that opportunity to just bumble in guesses for the rest of the ones that you didn't get to, then go back to question 17 or question 18, wherever you left off, and just keep going from there. But you should not be trying to answer every question, only the ones that you know that you can get right. And
why? What do you mean by that?
You're going to take as long on a question as it takes for you to understand it and to answer with confidence, because you have solved the question, you've figured it out, and you can vouch for the correct answer. And doing it that way is going to take longer. It's going to disregard the clock, but it is the path forward to unlocking not only higher scores because of your accuracy, but doing it that way over time, you will build up speed naturally as a result of your focus on accuracy and on just taking it one question at a time.
So you're saying we should actually understand these questions so that we can answer them correctly?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Like,
yes.
Totally. I just want to double down on everything that Eric just said. This is a question that we get a lot in class. We get, I'm sure that you get this question emailed to the pods frequently, We also get asked this on in like Demon Live. We both teach for Demon Live, and we get I get this question all the time. How do I get to the end of the section with enough time? And I'm like, why are you trying to do that? Do you recognize that the questions get more difficult as you go along? Because the last 5 questions as a group are going to be significantly harder than the first 5, right? Mm-hmm. It gets ramping difficulty as you go. That doesn't mean there won't be an easy one at question 22, but generally speaking, like 20 through 25 are going to be harder than 1 through 5. And so you're rushing through the easy ones and potentially missing them because you're misreading stuff. You're not fully understanding what the argument's actually saying. You're not taking time to predict what the problem is and therefore what the answer is related to. You're maybe misunderstanding the question because you're like, man, I got to keep going. I got to get to question 24. And so you're missing question 2 and question 6 and question 11 along the way. The problem isn't that you didn't have enough time. It's that you didn't take the time to get those early questions correct. Low-hanging fruit. If you get 1 through 17 or so correct on all 3 sections, you're going to be in the 160s.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great. That's shoot for higher, sure. But if you're right now in, say, the 140s or 150s, and you're looking up at, I want to be in the 160s, and you're finishing everything, that's your problem. Your problem is that you don't actually understand the things that you're missing in the moment. Therefore, you're missing them. Some questions take 3 minutes. Some questions take 5 minutes. Other questions take 30 seconds. And if you give yourself the time, no matter what it is that requires, at least you're getting paid for your work. If you spend 2 minutes on a question and you're like, oh shit, I gotta get going. I gotta move on to the next question. I'm spending too much time. And then you're like, well, toss up. I'm gonna just pick A. And then you miss it. You've now flushed 2 minutes down the toilet. That's the biggest waste of time that you could possibly do. And so I just really want to encourage people, take the time with each question, because if you get 10 in a row correct in 35 minutes, tomorrow you can get to 11.
Yeah. It's sort of like, you can kind of think of those early questions as like the foundation for your house, right? Like imagine you have 35 minutes to lay all the bricks for a house. Well, are you going to get concerned about the fact that it's like you only have 35 minutes and then you rush things? Yeah. Or are you just going to take time to like solidly lay the foundation? Like, what would you rather have? This is a really terrible metaphor, so I'm going to drop it entirely.
I love it. Keep going with it.
No, okay. Assuming that you have 5 chances to build the house.
I love this so much.
This isn't your only attempt at building the house. Are you going to freak out about the fact that you only have 35 minutes to do it and rush it so that you end up with a rickety ass house which is going to collapse upon you because you forgot some of the bricks in the foundation?
Yep.
Or would you rather build the walls, but maybe not the ceiling, but the walls are totally solid?
Yeah.
Which one's better?
I mean, depending on what you're looking for in life. I mean, no, the point is totally valid. Like you cannot get to the 170s if you don't get to the 160s. You can't get to the 160s if you don't get to the 150s. And you're never going to get to the 150s if you are attempting all the questions and missing 15 out of the section, right? Mm-hmm. You could randomly guess. Just don't even sit down, like just randomly pencil in stuff and you might get around the same score. Instead, spend your entire 35 minutes, relish the time that you get to understand and unlock those particular questions you're actually attempting. If you get 10 in a row correct and bubble in answers for the rest of them, you'll be striding into the low 150s. And you can then build upon that because you laid the foundation, to borrow Eric's metaphor. You've laid the foundation for your successful house building. You're not slapdashing it and it's just going to all come crumbling down because there's giant holes because you missed question 2, you missed question 6, you missed question 11.
Thank you for indulging me in that tortured metaphor.
It was so good. I love it.
All right. Okay, quickly, 2 questions, somewhat interrelated, getting back to, I think, Matt's interest in like how to treat the final minutes of a section. one I get a lot. I know I only have like 2 minutes left. And question 21, which I'm on right now, I'm just not getting it.
Okay.
So should I just like skip over it and go to the next one and try to get the next one instead? Because this one seems really hard. So am I better off just skipping to use my remaining 2 minutes on a different question instead? Since I'm struggling with this one.
I mean, like, I get the impetus, and like, I get the idea that that might be right in some very particular circumstances, but I'm not clairvoyant. And so I don't know if that next question is harder or not. And I may not know that until I've read the argument and like spend some time with it and then get into the answer choices. And so you might have to invest 2 minutes to even figure out that, oh shit, this is even harder than the one I abandoned. My thought is that this is a practice test, right? This is a practice test. No one's grading you. Try to figure out that one question that you're working on. See if you can take a deep breath. See if you can sink into it a little bit more and go, oh, wait a second. Let me take a different angle at this. Let me try something here. And you know what? If the timer goes off on your practice test and you're still working on it, keep working until you figure it out. If you take 10 minutes, who cares? I think there's more value in working at it rather than abandoning ship, because if you abandon ship in your practice tests, I think you're probably more likely to do it on the real day. And that could be a really unfortunate circumstance in that real day situation. So I don't see the value of doing it. Like, it's a very risky payoff, maybe like low odds, risky payoff. And I think there could be a lot of benefit of you right now sticking it out, actually learning from it, and then not struggling with that thing in the future because you've made the connection. I think there's more value in that, especially in your practice tests.
Totally agree. I also will tell students frequently, like, you sort of have to have the confidence that if you take that breath, like you mentioned, and refocus on understanding the passage, that you're probably only like 15, 20 seconds away from seeing the thing that you didn't before and figuring it out.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Like, yeah, I even want to caution the idea of like, well, you know, it's early in the section. And so like I have 15 minutes, I could come back to this one. Again, I feel like if you're really, really beating your head against a wall and like, it's just not like, it's like gibberish words on a page. Okay, maybe. But if you do that more than once, I start to question whether that's actually the case and whether you're just giving up. Like, this feels difficult, so I don't want it to feel difficult, so I'm bouncing out. Well, it's never going to feel easy unless you figure it out, and you have to stick with it to figure it out. And so even if you have more time, it's not just a 2-minute thing. I still want to encourage you. You've invested 3 minutes. Do you want to waste that time completely? Or do you want to spend 30 more seconds and at least get paid for your work?
Yep. Great point. Okay, one more somewhat related before we wrap things up. I just finished question 20. I know I've only got like 90 seconds left. There's no way I'm going to answer question 21 in 90 seconds. Should I just go back and review some of the questions that I wasn't sure about?
Why not? Why can't 90 seconds be sufficient? How do you know?
Because the questions at the end of the section are so hard. And because,
maybe,
well, if question 20, if I took me so long to do question 20, I'm not going to do question 21 in that time, am I?
Are we doing an LR question right now? Because that's what this feels like a little bit. I mean, like, realistically, maybe I agree with that premise. I don't, or I should say, maybe I agree with that conclusion. I agree with the premise. You only got 90 seconds. You have this next question, but like, is your conclusion proven that you cannot do it in those 90 seconds? I don't know. Maybe you can. And so there might be value to that. Like, try it. See if you get there. I think you can do that. What are you going back to review? is my second question.
The questions that I flagged because I wasn't sure about them when I answered them the first time.
Okay, then you shouldn't have moved on from them in the first place. Like that's where I go to with that second thing is like, what are you going back to review? Now, if you finished the section, like I finished logic games when I was doing them, when I was actually studying and doing all that kind of stuff, I was finishing logic game sections in like 25 minutes or so, knowing that I got every question correct. Sometimes I would then go back and go, that third game was a little weird. Did I actually do the setup right? Like, and I'll look back at that and review. But it's because I've done the section and I know that I did everything. And so I'm like killing time, maybe. If you are not in that place and you're going, well, I have these seconds to go back and review the ones I flagged. What did you flag? Why did you flag it? Why did you move on from it? Why did you give yourself the excuse to move on from it by flagging? I think all of those are questions you should be asking yourself in the moment. And therefore, you shouldn't have those 90 seconds because you probably would have distributed them out and just solved those questions in the first place. Mm-hmm. So I think really just keep working. Keep working on the one that you're on. Turn to the next one. If you got 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30, whatever, just start working on it, especially if it's a practice test, because if the timer goes off, you can keep working on it and figure it out. Just don't count it or whatever. I don't care.
Totally.
Yeah.
Anything else before we wrap things up? I think we did a good job spending 20 minutes or so just repeatedly saying, just focus on one question at a time.
Yeah. TLDR. Take your time.
Yeah. Take your time. Just focus on the one question in front of you.
No, it's been awesome. I love all of this. I love the discussion, and so thankful to help people do their best on the LSAT. Like Nate and Ben have figured this stuff out and have helped us figure it out. If you take your time with it and actually understand it, that's how you get, like, how many people, today's score release day, how many people have you seen that emailed being like, oh, I cracked the high 170s?
Oh, yeah. Well, I see the tons. I mean, I see the podcast email accounts, and we're just getting flooded with all sorts of ecstatic emails.
Is that possible if you don't understand it?
No.
You just skimmed the surface? No, of course not. Of course not. The key to this, all of this, is understanding. Guess what the key to is? Spoiler alert for y'all's future. The key to understanding case law is also understanding it. Mm-hmm. To doing well in law school is understanding it. To doing well in the bar exam is understanding it. You're signing up for a lifetime of being the one who understands it. And so I really hope that people start that practice now, start that process now, start that work ethic now. I'm going to be the one who understands it. Take all the time. That's how you get there.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt. And thank you, Matt, for writing into the show. Email daily@lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.